It's Wednesday, February 23. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simeon Absalom Gale. Prime Minister Andrew Holness announced a further easing of restrictions as Jamaica shows positive signs that it is emerging from the fourth wave of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a nationally televised press conference on Tuesday evening, Mr. Holness said the changes, which take effect on Friday, will last for the next 3 weeks.
1. The curfew hours will change from 11 p.m. nightly to midnight until 5 a.m. the following morning until 5 a.m. on March 18th, 2022. 2. The current maximum of 20 persons allowed to physically attend funerals and burials will be increased to 100. This number includes mourners, clergy, and any other support personnel. As a reminder, burials are permitted only between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Mondays to Friday. 3. The maximum number of persons for events hosted by public sector entities will be increased from 50 to 100. As a reminder, a maximum of 100 persons may be physically present at weddings and annual general meetings of companies.
Effective March 1, travelers to Jamaica will no longer require a travel authorization via the Jam COVID or Visit Jamaica website as government removes the travel-related quarantine order. However, Mr. Holness cautions that some restrictions will remain.
We are at this time maintaining the existing pre-test requirement for a negative PCR or antigen test conducted within 3 days prior to travel. We are aware that obtaining pre-tests is becoming more difficult and expensive in some jurisdictions. We are therefore reviewing whether or not we should maintain this requirement or modify it.
People who test positive for COVID-19 will still be required to quarantine and isolate from others. The Prime Minister also hints at the full removal of restriction. However, he says the priority for government at the moment is to get all children back to school for face-to-face instruction after the mid-term holidays. Health and Wellness Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, who was also in attendance, suggests that the worst days of the COVID-19 pandemic are now past. He says Jamaica is now seeing better days after the devastating impact of the pandemic over the past 2 years.
We believe that we are seeing the tail end, certainly, of the fourth wave. Today represents the first time that we have seen positivity rate below 5%. 5% is the benchmark. Today we had 4.4%, which is very positive, and hospitalization less than 50%, 300 plus beds occupied of the 740 or so beds that are available for COVID. This augurs well, we believe, for the elimination of the restrictions around elective procedures. Some hospitals have already begun to deal with cases that had to be pushed back to give priority to COVID cases, and you will see more of that in the weeks to come. So we do feel hopeful, based on the advice of the clinicians, that we are seeing the better days and the worst days of COVID have passed.
With the country's vaccination rate currently standing at 23%, Dr. Tufton is reminding persons that they can still get inoculated.
We do have 1.4 million doses of vaccines in stock, available across the country. Today we received, was it today or yesterday? Today we received 200,000 doses of AstraZeneca. We have J&J, we have Sinopharm, we have Johnson & Johnson. So Jamaicans have a choice and they have the option, and we do encourage that because vaccinations still represent the best protection against this virus. We will continue to work with you, the public, and we crave your understanding and support as we work towards the closing end of the COVID threat that has confronted us for the past 2 years.
The Pensions, Superannuation Funds and Retirement Schemes Act will be repealed and replaced. Minister without portfolio in the office of the Prime Minister, Robert Nesta Morgan, announced Cabinet's decision during a press conference on Wednesday.
This will ensure that the relevant amendments are made to also the Income Tax Act and the Financial Commission Act. There's also the approval of the National Housing Trust and Regulations amendments. This was done to ensure that the regulations incorporate policies that were undertaken by the trust from 2006 to present.
Cabinet has approved a 28.5% increase in minimum wage effective April 1, 2022. Minister of Labor and Social Security Carl Samuda says this will see the rate moving from $7,000 to $9,000 per 40-hour work week. He spoke during a digital press conference on Tuesday.
Cabinet has approved an increase also in the minimum wage for security guards from $9,700 to $10,500 per 40-hour work week, and increases in the allowances payable to security guard. Laundry allowance will be increased from $40 to $47.62 per hour. Firearm premium allowance will be increased from $48 to $51.95 per hour.
Mr. Samuda notes that the minimum wage was only a guide, and employers who can pay more should do so.
Don't mistake this for what it is not. It is a minimum wage, not the living wage, because many people cannot, quite frankly, survive comfortably at this level. But it certainly offers a base on which to build, and that's what our objective is, to eventually enable those who need it the most to get increases incrementally that will make them able to have a comfortable life.
The ink is now dry following Tuesday's signing by government and the Jamaica Police Federation of the agreement for a 4% increase for the contract period April 1, 2021 to March 31, 2022. The agreement was signed by the JPF on behalf of rank and file members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, who are now due to receive their back pay in March. Minister of Finance and Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, hailed the development as a very significant one for the country.
Today is a good day. It's a significant day because today we signed the heads of agreement for the 21-22 bargaining period with the Jamaica Police Federation. And with this signing, it brings to approximately 98% the numbers of government or employees who are now covered by wage agreements. And 98% is practically complete. There are administrative matters that are yet to be fulfilled. And to think that together through dialogue and discussion, we've been able to achieve agreement with bargaining groups and unions representing 98% of public sector workers with today's signing is a testimony to the social cohesion of the Jamaican society.
Dr. Clark also commended the JCF for the crucial and critical role the institution plays in the country's economic well-being, while assuring that government places its members' welfare at the center of its considerations.
I use this opportunity today to salute the brave men and women of the Constabulary Force, for them to know that the government of Jamaica places their issues and their welfare at the center of our considerations. We thank you for the leadership the Federation has shown and for the leadership members of the Constabulary Force have shown in coming to an agreement around this fiscal year in light of the circumstances that we face in Jamaica.
JPF Chairman Corporal Rohan James expressed optimism that the JCF members would benefit from the agreement, as well as the government's compensation restructuring program.
It has been a long road in coming to this position, and the Federation, in no doubt, has endured a lot of painstaking discussion, and what we embarked on, and we believe that we are at this position, it is not that we are satisfied, but we are making a sacrifice in the interest of national security and the people of this country. It is that based on the information that we are privileged to, it is that we are going to ensure that we hold true to form and the government accountable and to its word when the government posits that we will benefit significantly from the compensation review implementation, and the Federation will ensure that at the end of the day, the membership gets what they so desire in the interest of all parties and the people of Jamaica.
A total of $5 billion has been budgeted for road works during the 2022-2023 fiscal year. This was disclosed by a minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Everald Warmington, following a tour of sections of St. James on Tuesday. Mr. Warmington also advised that $300 million is earmarked for emergency work resulting from flooding, $84 million for gullies, $54 million for bridges, and $74 million to address issues relating to traffic signals. Several major roadways in and around Montego Bay St. James have been identified for rehabilitation and a drainage upgrade. Mr. Warmington, along with representatives of the National Works Agency and Member of Parliament for St. James Central Hugh Clark, visited several areas being targeted. They include Cornwall Courts, Green Pond, Valley Heights, Capitol Heights, King Street, and North Gully. Time now for a look at the daily market updates with the Business Report.
In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, February 22, the US dollar sold for an average $156.28. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $122.60. The pound sterling traded for $210.81, and the euro sold for an average $180.76. In Tuesday's trading session, the following reflect the movement of the JSE indices. The JSE index declined by 1,550 points to close at under 400,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 14 points to close at over 3,000 units. The combined market index declined by 1,327 points to close at over 400,000 units. And the All-Jamaican Composite Index advanced by 111 points to close at over 446,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 108 stocks, of which 41 advanced, 49 declined, and 18 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and Barisa Investments Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, and Berger Paints Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were 138 Student Living Jamaica Variable Preference, CAC 2000 Cumulative Preference Shares, and Carreras Limited. QII Investments Limited was the volume leader with over 6 million units, followed by Wigson Wind Farm Limited Ordinary Shares with over 6 million units, and Derrimon Trading Company Limited with over 4.6 million units. In market data for oil prices fell on Wednesday, declining from a 7-year high as it became clear that the first wave of US and European sanctions on Russia were unlikely to disrupt oil supplies. Brent crude was down 59 cents or 0.6% to $96.25 a barrel after hitting $99.50 on Tuesday, the highest since September 2014. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell 76 cents or 0.8% to $91.15 a barrel after reaching $96 on Tuesday. And that does it for this Wednesday's edition of the Business Report. I'm Danita Rodney. Pleasant viewing.
In news from across the region, we begin in the Bahamas. Viewers are being advised that this is a report on a sensitive matter that might cause emotional distress. Prime Minister Philip Davis is once again facing questions on whether his government intends to criminalize marital rape. He told reporters on Tuesday that rape is rape, and he will be guided by recommendations from a recent forum. The Prime Minister also defended his administration's legislative agenda. Here's more in this report.
Whether you call it marital or otherwise, rape is rape.
Prime Minister Philip Davis vague when asked about whether his government will bring legislation to criminalize marital rape. Davis said that recommendations will be made according to the National Gender-Based Violence Law Review Reform, adding that legislation will be brought forward and enacted so long as it is deemed appropriate by Cabinet.
I don't want to get into the description of rape, and I think, and I've given the Attorney General the mandate to follow the recommendations that will flow from that conference that was held last week by the Ministry of Social Services, and we'll see what the recommendations are from there, and we'll move to enact what laws that is recommended by them to the Attorney General that is deemed appropriate by the Cabinet.
His comments come as the issue of gender-based violence remain at the forefront of national discussions. In late 2017, the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women said the Bahamas was out of step with the UN's Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, as it has failed to criminalize all forms of marital rape. Successive administrations have declared a willingness to amend the Bahamas' Sexual Offenses and Domestic Violence Act 1991 to criminalize marital rape, but no such action has been taken. Davis explained that a conference was held to chart the way forward. When asked, Davis said related legislation could be brought this term. This as he sought to defend his government's legislative agenda against critics who say they're not taking it seriously. This as the mid-year budget report will be delayed for 2 weeks.
Not everything is achieved through the parliamentary or legislative regime. There are many initiatives that don't require what I call parliamentary intervention for the purposes of enacting laws. So it is important to understand what do they mean by legislative agenda, what legislation that they think we ought to have been producing or presenting or laying on the table that has not been laid. We have our agenda and we are moving by our agenda.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
The Caribbean Telecommunications Union has announced plans to sign an agreement with Grenada's two main providers of telecommunication services. In a recent release, the CTU says the historic St. George's Declaration on Roaming with Digital and Flow is intended to make services more available and cheaper to consumers in member states. Speaking with Meaningful Television on Tuesday, CTU Secretary General Rodney Taylor explained the role of the union.
So the CTU, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union, is a regional intergovernmental organization. It is an institution of CARICOM established in 1989 by CARICOM heads of government to harmonize telecommunications throughout the CARICOM member states. So policies and legislations related to telecommunications and technology so that there's a common framework as we move throughout the Caribbean region that would be conducive to investment and the growth and development of the ICT sector.
He also discussed how the CTU benefits its members.
And the benefits, as I mentioned, harmonization of legislation and policies related to telecommunications, which helps to standardize the industry and helps to promote investment for big corporations like Digicel and Cable and Wireless that are doing business in the region. The harmonized framework helps them to deploy technology based on standards that we have all agreed on within the region. And it makes it more seamless as you move from one country to the next to be able to use, your mobile phones and so on.
In May 2017, Caribbean Community CARICOM ministers with responsibility for information, communication and technology approved the integrated work plan for the 15-member grouping's single ICT space. The Secretary General says having a single digital space will ultimately result in reduced prices to consumers. In St. Kitts, a museum showcasing the life and work of late national hero Simeon Daniel was opened in the country on Friday. Glenn Bart has the details in this report.
A museum showcasing the life and work of the late national hero, the Right Excellent Dr. Sir Simeon Daniel, was opened at Belmont Gardens, Nevis on Friday, 18 February 2022. Sir Simeon Daniel was a former Premier of the Nevis Island Administration and served also in the federal government of St. Kitts and Nevis. He is credited for shaping the pre- and post-independence era of the island of Nevis during his time as the political leader of the Nevis Reformation Party. The event was attended by representatives of the federal government, family and friends, and children of the national hero briefly reflected on the legacy of their renowned father. His daughter and current leader of the Nevis Reformation Party, Dr. Janice Daniel Hodge, shared her thoughts on her father's contribution and the hope his life would be an inspiration for others.
I am proud that my father would have inspired his children sufficiently for us to take up the mantle to make this museum a reality. Even though, as siblings, as most siblings do, we do not always see eye to eye about how we go about doing things. We have the same resolve, however, to fulfill our Father's wishes. My wish today is that when persons, our children especially, pass through the doors of the Right Excellent Dr. Sir Simeon Daniel Museum and they learn about the man and what he stood for, that they would be inspired to contribute to the positive development of our beloved Nevis, as my siblings and I were inspired by him.
According to Thovia France, the museum was designed to be engaging and innovative and of interest to residents, citizens, and visitors to the island.
Clearly, Sir Simeon Daniel lived a life of excellence and built a legacy of which every Nevisian and Kittitian should be proud. And so, we wanted to capture that grand essence in the stories and images that you will see today and on your return visits. Therefore, the creative content in this museum has been expertly curated to provide the best combination of in-depth accounts of the surviving friends and family of Sir Simeon, with memorable highlights of his early life, his education and professional experience, his involvement in and leadership of political movements, and ultimately his vision, legacy, and later his recognition as a national hero of St. Kitts and Nevis. At the same time, we wanted to tell those familiar stories from the past with a fresh style and presentation. So, we have incorporated vibrant and colorful branding, eye-catching animations, moving video interviews, and some never-before-seen images and footage. We have kept the narrative at a level for children, teens, and adults to follow, learn, and enjoy.
It is hoped that the Sir Simeon Daniel Museum will become a favorite for nationals and visitors alike. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
In sports, Olympic gold medalist Elaine Thompson-Herah came second in the women's 60-meter dash at Tuesday's Orlen-Copernicus Cup, a World Athletics Indoor Tour Gold Level Series meet in Poland. Thompson-Herah sprinted to a season's best 7.04 seconds, but the event was won by hometown favorite Iwa Swoboda in a meet record 7.03 seconds. Meanwhile, Renisha McGregor, another Jamaican who competed at Tuesday's meet, finished third in her heat of the women's 400 meters in 53.06 seconds. In other sporting news, Shannon Gabriel was not fit for selection for the first match test against England, and that's a word from Cricket West Indies lead selector Desmond Haynes as he addressed the press on Tuesday. Mr. Haynes also defended the decision to replace opener Jeremy Salonzo with John Campbell in the squad.
There was good discussion regarding the opening, and as you know, that in itself is something in which we really want to resolve rather shortly. I think in all good teams, you find that they've got good opening batsmen. So we're hoping to get our opening batsmen, with some confidence and making sure that they can do the job for us. I think we have stuck with Campbell, not only because that he's got the 100, but talking to the captain and battling with Campbell in the games that he has played, we had a bit of success there. It was a bit unfortunate for Jeremy, but we decided, look, we put him in the President's 11 game, whereas that, the selectors can have another look at him because, as you know, it was a bit unfortunate after getting struck on the head that he didn't get a chance to play in Sri Lanka.
Mr. Haynes says Campbell deserved another chance despite an unflattering record since making his test debut during the English tour of the Caribbean in 2019 and before the current West Indies Championship. The Jamaican had impressed selectors with his batting for Jamaica's Scorpions in the first 2 rounds of the ongoing 4-day championships, hitting 213 runs at an average of 53.25, including 127 against Barbados Pride last week. The test squad includes Nkrumah Bonner, Shamar Brooks, John Campbell, Joshua De Silva, Jason Holder, Alzari Joseph, Kyle Mears, Veerasamy Permaul, Anderson Phillip, Kamar Roach, Jaden Seals, along with Captain Craig Brathwaite and Vice Captain Jermaine Blackwood. The first test match will start on March 8 at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in Antigua. Vaccinated football fans will be able to watch their teams play in person starting this weekend. This follows a 2-year ban due to restrictions placed to stem the spread of the coronavirus. The venue at Drax Hall has gotten approval for 1,300 fully vaccinated spectators, while the National Stadium, Stadium East and Sabina Park have also gotten approval for 1/3 of their capacity to attend. And that's the news on PBCJ. On behalf of the production team, pleasant viewing.